Aer Lingus appeared before the Oireachtas Committee on COVID on the 28th of July, and rather than read the full details of that submission again, I'm happy to forward it in its entirety to the members of the committee. In attending the committee in July, we outlined the catastrophic effect that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on the aviation sector. As early as this morning, IATA have predicted that airlines will globally burn through $77 billion of cash this winter. We also outlined the critical importance of the aviation sector for the Irish economy. Before this crisis, we enjoyed unprecedented levels of international connectivity. It was the envy of other countries, cities and markets across the world. It allowed a number of things to happen in the Irish economy. We allowed business to be done internationally. We allowed significant foreign direct investment to take place. Key business and service sectors such as technology, software, pharma, medical, finance, food and beverage depend on that connectivity. And of course, legions of small businesses across the country depend on inbound tourism brought to the country by the aviation sector. We also should not forget the ability of friends and relatives who are based and dispersed internationally to connect and come home to visit their loved ones. Again, it's something that aviation does in providing that connectivity. The grim reality is that connectivity is gone, and there is no sight as to when it will return. In July, we outlined the recommendations of the final report of the Aviation Recovery Task Force. That was published on the 10th of July. 3 months later, none of the key recommendations have been implemented. We also outlined in July how we have the most restrictive travel policy in Europe. Ireland is effectively closed for business, and this would have a profound impact on jobs and the Irish economy. We were encouraged on the 15th of September when the government said it would adopt the framework for free movement as proposed by the European Commission. However, on the 17th of September, the 24th of September and the 1st of October, the government's policy in relation to the Green List rode in exactly the opposite direction to the direction outlined by the European Commission. So as it stands today, we're more closed for business than ever before. So look, we're where we were in July when we said that we are in the unfortunate position of having the most restrictive travel policy in Europe, but also having done the least to support the aviation sector thus far. So while we do see a change in approach being signalled, and we welcome it, so far it has not been delivered. I will now turn to the specific items that Aer Lingus was asked to address the committee upon. And if I talk first about the European Commission proposal. The proposal is referred to as the traffic light system. And for the convenience of committee members, we have included in the appendix of our submission an illustration of what adoption of that proposal would look like. We should, if we adopted it in its entirety, have 16 countries open for travel today instead of the 4 that we do have. To be clear, the approach recommends that we do not have travel restrictions for green and orange coded countries and areas. Hence, we shouldn't be restricting movements or quarantines on arrival. For passengers coming from red areas, the European Commission proposes that quarantine and movement restrictions are replaced by the introduction of a testing regime for passengers. That is what alignment with the framework looks like, and that alignment needs to be complete if the adoption of the traffic light system is going to make any kind of a difference to the prospects for aviation. As we outlined, we're very keen to make sure that international travel is increased safely, but I would encourage the committee to move with speed to adopt this framework. And I must say I am concerned that what we will get on the 13th is nowhere near close to full adoption based on the commentary that we just heard in the previous session. Now look, we believe that there are a number of things that you look at, and not just things like testing and travel restrictions when you look at how safe it is to travel. We have pre-travel health declarations, we have the use of face masks, we have enhanced cleaning on the aircraft, we've got state-of-the-art air filtration, we've got electronic passenger locator forms. We can link our COVID tracker app to other jurisdictions and create complete coverage of contact tracing for all people who are travelling internationally. That, coupled with protocols the EU has outlined and the advancements in rapid testing, give us a situation where international travel will be much, much safer and have much, much lower risks of transmission than we see in the broader community. So rapid testing is a point that's been debated at length here, and I thought I would talk about rapid testing again in the context of the multi-layered approach to risk management that we spoke about. We do need to bring a testing protocol in to Ireland, and I think we do need to make sure that that's aligned with the EU framework and that it enables the lifting of restrictions. Again, we need to be clear that that testing framework should apply to only red countries. I think there are a number of ways in which we could do this, and the EC proposal needs to also, I think, take into account some of the work done by Airlines for Europe and IATA when they've looked at this, and they issued a publication on the 1st of October. One is that we could have a test certified by a health regulator made in advance of travel, something around the 72-hour window. The second is that we look at a rapid test at the airport premises, preferably before entering the terminal. Or the third is that we have a rapid test available at the airport premises. So we think we just need to alight on a testing regime and go on and enable it for high-risk countries. But we should be looking at this in terms of a number of criteria. One, it shouldn't consume the state's testing capacity. Two, it should be scalable. Three, it should be affordable. And four, it should be able to give results on a rapid basis. And I think we need to be clear that aviation requires screen testing capability, not necessarily diagnostic testing capability. And that's why we think the advances in antigen testing are the most appropriate to look at in this regard. So IATA advised that rapid and affordable antigen testing can be administered by non-medical staff, another big benefit in terms of not placing a burden on the health system of the country passengers are arriving into. And IATA are working imminently with ICAO to try and get endorsement for antigen testing as a solution for the restoration of international travel. And we do see airlines deploy these solutions, be it Alitalia or Lufthansa, who are both deploying the Abbott and Roche antigen testing solutions as we speak. So I think we would call for an urgent evaluation of testing solutions. We think antigen is a solution that can really scale up effectively and deliver on all of the criteria that we've set out on the paper. But in the absence of endorsement of antigen immediately, we also think we should look at testing protocols that can be implemented for high-risk countries that meet the current health standards, such as PCR. Now, the second item I'd like to just update the committee on is the temporary wage subsidy scheme. And we have been the subject of a lot of commentary, a lot of it inaccurate in terms of how we as an organisation have applied the TWSS. Firstly, I'd like to say we are acutely aware of the impact that the COVID-19 crisis is having for the employees of Aer Lingus, as well as for the employees in the aviation and hospitality sector. It's been made worse for people in Ireland because of the uniquely restrictive travel policies that we have. And as a consequence, everybody in Aer Lingus has had to be placed on reduced hours and pay. We took a decision that we would like to maintain, as much as we could, a direct employment relationship with all of our employees. That was the stated aim of the TWSS, and Aer Lingus has very much embraced the programme with that in mind. An alternative approach, and one taken by many employers, would have been to lay off significant numbers of employees and direct our employees exclusively towards the social protection system for welfare support. This is a decision we decided not to take. So in terms of clearing the record and clarifying some of the inaccurate commentary that I mentioned, we have at all times acted fully in accordance with the guidance received from the Revenue Commissioners and the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection in relation to both the TWSS, the EWSS and the various job seeker schemes that are available. In all cases, the TWSS was calculated in the first instance on the average revenue net weekly pay for January and February 2020. That was the period defined by the Revenue Commissioners, and that was the baseline before hours and pay cuts were applied to Aer Lingus employees. As such, our subsidies that were passed through were based on the unreduced salaries of our employees. As the qualification was based on that average net weekly wage for January and February, the subsequent reduction in hours that we had to enact as a result of the reduction in activity did not reduce the subsidy payments calculated or made under the TWSS, and Aer Lingus applied the full amount of those subsidies and passed it on in full to all of its employees. So in conclusion, we'd like to request the committee lend its voice to calling for the following. Firstly, the urgent and complete adoption by Ireland of the coordinated approach to free movement across the European Union that was proposed by the European Commission, i.e. the traffic light system, the urgent development of a rapid testing regime for the safe implementation of international travel, and the urgent implementation of the key recommendations of the Aviation Task Force as outlined on the 10th of July. All of this is absolutely critical to ensuring that the aviation sector recovers and plays a critical part in the recovery of the economy as we come out of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thanks very much.